My Ántonia by Willa Cather. Chapter 6. One afternoon we were having our reading lessons on the warm grassy bank where the badger lived. It was a day of amber sunlight, but there was a shiver of coming winter in the air. I had seen ice on the little horse pond that morning, and as we went through the garden we found little asparagus with its red berries lay on the ground. A mass of slimy green. Tony was barefoot, and she shivered in her cotton dress and was comfortable only when we were tucked down on the baked earth. In the full blaze of the sun, she could talk to me about almost anything by this time. That afternoon, she was telling me how highly esteemed our friend the badger was in her part of the world, and how men kept a special type of dog with very short legs to hunt him. Those dogs, she said, went down into the hole after the badger and killed them with a terrifying struggle underground. You can hear the barks and yelps outside. Then the dog dragged himself back covered with bites and scratches to be rewarded and petted by his master. She knew a dog who had a star on his collar for every badger he had killed. The rabbits were usually spray that afternoon. They kept starting up all about us and dashing off down the draw as if they were playing a game of some the kind, but the little buzzing things that lived in the grass were all dead, all but one. And while we were laying against the warm bank, a little insect of the palest frail green hopped painfully out of the buffalo grass and tried to leap into a bunch of blue stem. He missed it, fell back, and sat with his head stuck between his long legs, his antennas shivering, as if we were waiting for something to come and finish him. Tony made a warm nest for him in her hands, talked to him gaily and ignorantly in Bohemian, indentally in Bohemian. Presently, he began to sing for us, a thin, rusty little chirp. She held him close to her ear and laughed, but a moment afterwards I saw there were tears in her eyes. She told me that in her village at home there was an old beggar woman who went about selling herbs and roots she had dug up in the forest. We took her in and gave her a warm place by the fire. She sang old songs to the children in a cracked voice, like this. Old Hannah, she called, and her children laughed to see her coming and saved their cakes and sweets for her. When the bank on the other side of the draw began to throw a narrow shelf of shadow, we knew we ought to be started homeward. The chill came on quickly, then the sun got low and Antonia's dress was thin. What were we to do with the frail little creature we had lured back to life by false pretense? I offered my pocket, but Tony shook her head and carefully put the green insect in her hair, trying her big handkerchief down loosely over her curls. I said I would go with her until she could see Squaw Creek, and then turn and run home. We drifted along lazily, very happy through the magical light of the late afternoon. All those fall afternoons were the same, but I never got used to them. As far as we could see, the miles of copper-red grass were drenched in sunlight that was stronger and fiercer than any other time of the day. The bold cornfields were rolled red gold. The haystacks turned rosy and threw long shadows. The whole prairie was like the bush that burned with fire and was not consumed. That hour always had the exhaustion, of victory, of triumph ending like a hero's death, heroes who died young gloriously. It was a sudden transformation, a lifting up of day. How many an afternoon Ántonia and I have traveled along the prairie under this magnificence. and always two long black shadows flitted before us or followed after, dark spots on the rugged grass. We had been silent a long time, and the edge of the sun sank nearer and nearer the prairie floor. When we saw a figure moving on the edge of the upland, a gun over his shoulder, he was walking slowly, dragging his feet along as if he had no purpose. We broke into a run to overtake him. My papa is sick all the time, Tony panted as we flew. He's not look good, Jimmy. As we heard Mr. Sharmada, she shouted, and he lifted his head and peered about. Tony ran up to him, caught his hand, and pressed it against her cheek. She was the only one of his family who can rouse the old man from the torpor in which he seemed to live. He took the bag from his belt and showed us 3 rabbits he had shot, looked at Ántonia with a wintry flicker of a smile, and began to tell her something. She turned to me. My Taski made me a little hat with the skins, like hat for winter, she exclaimed joyfully. Meat for eat, skin for hat. She told off these benefits on her fingers. Her father put his hand on her hair, but she caught his wrist and lifted it away carefully, talking to him rapidly. I heard the name of old Hata. He untied the handkerchief and separated her hair with his fingers, and stood looking down at the green insect, where it began to chirp faintly. He listened to it as if it was a beautiful sound. I picked up the gun he dropped, a queer piece of the old country, short and heavy, with the stag head on the cock. When he saw me examining it, he turned it to me with his faraway look that always made me feel as if I were down at the bottom of a well. He spoke kindly and gravely, and Ántonia translated. My Taski said when you are big boy, he help you his gun. He give you his gun. Very fine from Bohemia. It was belong to a great man, very rich like you, Willa Cather. Many fields, many forests, many big house. My papa play for his wedding, and he give my papa fine gun, and my papa give to you. I was very glad that his project was one of the futurity. There never were such people of the Shamrodads I had. Even the mother was always offering me things, though I knew she expected substance presents in return. We stood there in friendly silence, while the feeble mistral sheltered in Antonia's hair went on with his scratching chirp. The old man smiled as he listened. It was so full of sadness, of pity for things, that I never afterward forgot it. As the sun sank, there came a sudden coolness and the strong smell of earth and drying grass. Ántonia and her father went off hand in hand, and I buttoned my jacket and raced my shadow home. That's the end of Chapter 5 of My Ántonia by Willa Cather. Please like, subscribe, comment, and look at my channel for more content like this. The following chapter, I will be posting that tomorrow. Sorry I didn't post yesterday, but I had posted 2 chapters the previous day. Yesterday I had a terrible headache and could barely function. Still, again, very sorry. I hope you liked the reading.